Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the invitation, this amazing festival. To be honest, when we got invited and I saw the title of the festival, I thought, wow, fixing the future. Quite ambitious. But I think, well, I don't know about you guys, because the future sometimes seems pretty difficult. Seems pretty, yeah. We have a lot of very severe, very urgent, very complex crises. Climate change, of course, is one of them. The loss of biodiversity, poverty, and yeah, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I tend to be a little bit of a, how to say, a bit like a doomsday person. But I'm happy that we're fixing the future here, and I hope I can contribute a little bit. Because if you look at all these very difficult problems in the world, you might start to think, okay, where do we start? And I think something really interesting, if you analyze it, then you might end up with the conclusion that all of these problems might have the same root cause. So the same kind of problem that underlies it. And yeah, we're going to talk about money again. Money is what the world makes go round, but it might also be the solution. We're going to talk about pricing. So I'm going to give you a bit of a childish example, bear with me. But imagine you have a neighbor, and the neighbor has some very cute kids. And one day, they start a lemonade factory or a lemonade shop, which is amazing, entrepreneurial mindset of young kids. And when you come home from a long day of work, you can have a refreshing glass of lemonade. But then the next day, you're sitting in your garden, relaxing, and you see the peels of the lemons flying over the fence. So you're like, what is happening? So these kids are basically throwing their trash into your garden. And if you look at it from a moral, human perspective, that's just not nice. It's a bit disrespectful even. But let's look at it from an economic perspective, because that's quite interesting. What has happened is that there is a company. This company had costs. They had to do something with their waste, right? They had to clean it up. But instead of processing it decently, they just threw it over the fence. And now they've shifted these costs to you. Because now, well, it's your problem. You have to at least, well, you have to spend time maybe to clean it up, or at least you have to go to the neighbor to ask them, like, hey, your kids, can they please clean up their mess? So these costs, this company has this cost, and they externalize them, and they shifted them to you. And now everybody in this room is thinking, okay, what is this guy talking about? I don't care about the lemonade shop. I don't care about SpongeBob. But this is actually what happens every single day in the current global economy. With every transaction we make, every little thing we buy, this is exactly what we do. If we buy a t-shirt at Zara, for example, we know that the production, the cultivation, and the processing of the cotton has costed enormous amounts of water. Which means that the cotton factory has taken all kinds of water from rivers, from lakes, from the ground, and now communities living there have to either walk further to get the same amount of water, dig deeper, maybe buy bottled water, And that's not just a sad situation. From an economic perspective, what the cotton company has done is basically shifted their costs to these communities. They externalize these costs because, well, they don't pay for it. The owner of the shirt, this is a Zara shirt, by the way, I didn't pay for that. They do. Sorry for the Spanish people here. If we eat tortilla de patata, with or without onions, I'm not going to get into that discussion. We know from our data that that contributes to child labor. It's a bit of a tragedy. But what happens, it's not that there are kids working in the factory or in the kitchen here. Well, I hope not. But farmers that grow potatoes, they need minerals, they need resources, and those are traced back to mines in the Central African Republic, where kids are working. They just externalize these costs to the kids. Delicious hamburger leads to deforestation in the Amazon, because the cows are fed with soy that is produced there. So this is a thing that happens every day, globally. Companies that just externalize the cost of the damage they make. And, well, at True Price, we think if externalities are the problem, then internalization might be the solution. So externalities represent this huge blind spot, we believe, in our current global economy. And because they are external, because we don't see them, because we, the people who are actually responsible for them, don't feel them, we also don't act upon it. So it leads to these global issues like the climate crisis, like ecosystem collapse, and many more. And we might think now, okay, our current global economy is doing pretty well, prices are low, it's very efficient. But we're just not counting everything. We just leave out this huge damage that is also included, should be included in there. And that's what a true price does. It's actually a really simple concept. A true price takes the normal price, the price we see every day, the market price, and we add all the social and environmental costs that are included in the supply chain. Stuff like types of pollution, soil, water, air, loss of biodiversity, greenhouse gas emissions leading to climate change, water use, but also social things like underpayment and under-earning, child labor, forced labor, things that we don't see a lot in Europe. But then if it happens somewhere else in the world, then, well, we don't seem to care too much. So, the current price is what we see and what you pay for a product. And then the true price gap is what currently others are paying for your product. And let me be very clear. The goal of true pricing is not to shame everyone and make things more expensive and tell them you shouldn't buy anything anymore. The goal is to make things more sustainable, to decrease that gap with the right information. And this is what the organization True Price, is a social enterprise based in Amsterdam, is working on, with dozens of companies globally already. We're working on decreasing the externalities of companies and products. And we do that in several ways. First of all, the data, because in the end, a true price is not much more than a piece of information. The data helps companies to improve their value chain. So with that information, they can look in their supply chain and see, okay, this is where the damage is happening, this is how big the damage is, can I intervene? Can I come up with innovations, for example, to decrease it? Then secondly, They can use it to be more transparent. So imagine that you are in a shop and you see two products, one with a higher true price and one with a lower true price. You immediately see, in a second, split second, you see what the more sustainable option is. So you can help customers and companies as well to make more sustainable choices. And then thirdly, you can even enable voluntary payments. So you can even ask the consumer to voluntarily pay a little bit extra to pay that gap. And that gap shouldn't go into the pockets of the company. It's also not going to true price, unfortunately. No, we should use it to decrease the gap, to make the value chain more sustainable. And I will show you some examples of companies we have been working with. First example, Tony's Chocolonely. Might have heard of it or not. It's a Dutch chocolate brand. And they've used our calculations the past few years to increase the premium they pay to cocoa farmers in Ivory Coast and Ghana. So based on, I would say, simple calculations, the reality is not that simple, but based on certain calculations, they have improved the livelihoods of farmers over there. Because these farmers can now send their kids to school instead of letting them work on the land. This is a value chain intervention. The Ministry of Infrastructure in the Netherlands is now showing true prices of food products in its canteen. So you can see here the typical Dutch lunch, which is not very inspiring, but it's a cheese sandwich. And if you zoom in a bit, you can see that the external cost added to it is about 20 cents. While the external cost for a meat sandwich is, let's say, 60 cents. And what have we seen? People start choosing the cheese sandwich more often. Direct impact. And then the biggest supermarkets of the Netherlands, Albert Heijn, they have done an experiment of 3 months in some of its stores where they asked voluntarily to pay the true price gap. So people can actually pay a little bit extra. And that money is invested in coffee farms in Ethiopia. About 20% of the people in the Netherlands opted for the payment, which is quite a lot, I believe. It shows that there is appetite for it. Another really interesting experiment by Penny Supermarket in Germany. They've been showing the true price of meat for 2 years now, without payments, just showing. And this is a budget supermarket. And people actually start eating less meat, simply because of a piece of information. So, is true pricing going to fix the future? Well, I will not say it's the silver bullet, right? It's not going to solve everything. But I think it can contribute a lot. Because it provides the right information to all stakeholders in the global economy to make better decisions. And imagine for a second that all prices in the world are true prices. What happens? What happens is that companies start to compete on true prices. It means that they have this structural, integral incentive to steer on sustainability. Wow, isn't that beautiful? And last but not least, obviously the question of affordability arises, right? We cannot raise prices enough, etc., which is a good thing to say. But yeah, we can not pay the price now, but the bill will continue to grow, and we will have to pay it at some point. So paying the price now is much more efficient than leaving it up to future generations. So keep calm. Please keep calm, everybody. And start true pricing. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask them now, I think, or later, and otherwise at the drinks later or send me an email. And if you want to collaborate, of course, also feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.